going to stand back here and probably walk around. That's just to drive Joe nuts as a cameraman. Follow me, follow around. And so, Ali and Didi, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. As I mentioned, we've had a transition in the department. That tends to happen. They're here to make sure that I don't miss anything, or they can fill in information that might be critical. So this is the meet and greet. Now, you all went around and introduced yourselves. Be prepared to do the same thing again at 12 o'clock. Okay. Okay. That's what going to be with the orthotics and prosthetics students. So just to get you oriented, we are the main campus. We're the Department of Rehab Science and Technology, but our main campus is in Oakland, which is about 2 miles away from here. They moved us out here to Bakery Square, I don't know, what was it, 5 years ago? It seems like it was yesterday, but we've been here for a while. Yeah. And this is where we have a lot of our labs. But basically, headquarters is Forbes Tower. That's where the dean's office is. That's where the Center for Assistive Technology is located. And that is still officially RST's headquarters, correct? Right. Yeah. So that's where the anything related to the operations of our school and our department take place in Forbes Tower. That's also going to be where some of your classes are taught. Some classes are taught here at Bakery Square, and others are taught in Forbes Tower. And then, of course, there's other classes you can take in other departments or schools that are going to be on campus. So that's important to know, that we're located off-site. There's a campus map. There's resources online to help you find your way around campus. I know that Vince is going to be talking in a little bit to give you some better orientation to where things are. So there's basically 2 major programs in our department right now. That is the Masters of Science in Rehab Tech that you're in right now, and also the Master of Science in Prosthetics and Orthotics. That's, I want to say, a fairly new program, fairly new in the last 10 years or so. We've also had other programs in our department, like physician assistant, rehab counseling, and they're at the stage now where they're becoming their own department. We have a PhD program, so some of you, when you finish your master's degree, may choose to stay on and do a PhD if your career interests are especially in the area of research or academics. So starting with a master's degree is a good option. And then also we have the Center for Assistive Technology. That was where Joe Stratman worked, myself, and some other people in here. You'll probably be spending quite a bit of time there, especially if your goals for being here in Pittsburgh is to get more experience and exposure to not just clinical care, but also managing clinical programs. So that's where that takes place in Forbes Tower on the 3rd floor. Other programs we have within the department, there's another organization called the International Society of Wheelchair Professionals. That's a funded program through the United States Department of State and the, what does USAID stand for again? United States Agency on, I know I'm drawing a blank here, International Development, thank you. And that's basically the world of wheelchair seating and mobility coming into one organization so that in less resourced or medium resourced countries, we can begin to provide appropriate assistive technologies related to wheelchair and seating to the overall population. I don't remember the statistics exactly, but there's something like 70 million people in the world that need a wheelchair, and something like less than 5% actually have access to it. Some of the challenges with that too is that people are dispensing wheelchairs around the world, but they may not be dispensing the right wheelchair. And we see that a lot with nonprofit organizations, religious groups, and so on. And what we're really trying to do with that program is to get people following a consistent standard of practice, and the way that you can do that is through education, research, and other activities. We have the Rehab Engineering Research Center, or what we call RERCs. There are several RERCs around the country. These are funded by the National Institute on Disability, or National Institute on Disability and Independent Living. The one that we have here, and that's where Anand is working, is coming up with standards, new standards of how we should be building wheelchairs so that they can last, tolerate, and work in the environments that they're intended to work in. There's a tissue integrity management lab, or the TIM lab, and that's run by Dr. Brienza and his team. They're really looking at how the skin sort of responds and reacts to things like pressure, heat, and moisture. Pressure sores are a problem for people who have loss of sensation or are sitting for prolonged periods of time or sitting on different surfaces and sometimes not the most appropriate surfaces. So they do quite a bit of work in that space. Continuing education, that's, I told you a little bit about that. That's the program that I run. Like I said, the International Seating Symposium, or ISS, is probably what we're most known for. We have created other international seating symposiums around the world through people who have graduated from this program. So that's kind of nice to see. We have a program in Colombia. I was just there last week. 2 of our graduates run that. We have one down in Argentina. We have one in Dublin, Ireland, that represents Europe. We've done one in India with one of our former students, and we've also done one in China with one of our former students. So just know that as you leave here, good things do happen. And then we have the Human Engineering Research Lab, which I'll let Dee and Allie give you a little bit of an overview of what goes on at HURL.
Yes, so a lot of you probably have seen it already. Like you know, Human Engineering Research Laboratory was originally funded by Dr. Ori Cooper, and he was also the previous chair for this department, and he's transitioning his effort to lead this laboratory and hopefully to transition this laboratory to a school level, like institute, research institute. So that's where we are working towards. And HURL is primarily funded right now by the VA, the Veteran Affairs Department, and as one of their rehabilitation R&D center. And there are multiple centers like that RERC. There are multiple VA centers around the country. And so the HURL Center is focused on wheelchairs and associated rehabilitation engineering. And so HURL has, it's a laboratory, so there's a lot of labs that you're gonna visit. And after the tour, I think Colonel Fisher will take you to see that. So you can see the robotics lab and then the biomechanics lab and also the big machine shop downstairs. And so HURL also, in addition to research, we also provide a lot of training opportunities to veterans and military members and to help them to go back to school and also transition to workforce. And so that's, and there's other things I don't remember. But you know it more.
We have a summer program to bring undergraduate students into the lab and give them a research experience for 10 weeks. And so a lot of those students have actually transitioned into the master's program here or PhD program. So.
Great. So you can see there's a lot of programs and we're very well integrated. So that presents lots of opportunities for you while you're here and also when you graduate. Just as an example related to the VA, which is one of our biggest probably partners, for 9 years, Rich and I ran a program with the VA to create assistive technology clinics, very similar to the one we have in Forbes Tower. And one of the things that we were able to initiate was bringing back clinical rehab engineering to the VA. So those of you that are interested in going on to be clinical rehab engineers, the VA is now starting to hire engineers. They did probably 30 years ago, and something happened and kind of dropped off. I think the therapists took over, and now the clinicians, like especially physical medicine and rehab, folks are recognizing that having a clinical rehab engineer on your team is vital. So, and then we have the MSPO program based here, like I said. The studio that you're in now, there's a design studio next door, which is Dr. Perlman's lab that does everything from the RERC stuff to some ISWP stuff. We have the test lab, and then HURL is all based here. Now, when we're done this morning, I think we should be out here around 11:15. You have the option of going on a tour with Colonel Fisher to take a look at the labs. So let's get into some logistics. Plan of study. All right, the master's degree is a 44 credit program. And you have the option of doing it in 1 year or 2 years. And we've had people successfully do it in 1 year, and it's a little aggressive, but it's certainly doable. The 2 years gives you a little more opportunity to maybe spend some time learning some research, or doing some research projects, or maybe learning some more, getting more experience in a clinical setting. But you've all been assigned a preliminary advisor, and unless there's an issue with who you've been assigned to, that person will likely stay with you, or we will sit down now that we've gotten to know you a little better to figure out what would be the best option for you as an advisor. But when you want to meet with your advisor relatively sooner than later to put together a plan of study. And the plan of study basically goes through what classes you're going to take, what semesters, and then the goal of graduating on time. Okay. There's core courses that you need to take, and we'll go through those in a minute. And then there's elective courses based on what experience or what experience you want to get outside of the core classes. Sometimes the electives are not taught in the sequence that you're in, and that's fine. You can always do that as an independent study. We're pretty flexible here about tailoring the plan of study to what your needs are and making sure that you get what you want out of this year or 2 years that you're in graduate school. We're only successful by your success. Our goal is for you to graduate, find a job, make lots of money, and give money back to the University of Pittsburgh. Okay. So the 1 year is sort of, this is the breakdown here. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details. This is in the materials that you've got, but these are the core classes that you'll be taking in this 1 year. Your first semester is 19 credits. That's going to be the one where you'll be studying a lot, reading a lot, and like I said, it's doable. And then in the second semester, you drop down to 12 credits of core, and then you have opportunities, right, for like 2 electives, get them up to like 15, or 19 credits? Yeah, 19 credits also, thank you. And then in the summer, you will do your internship. And that is 6 credits, it's 240 hours. I will let Rich and Allie talk about internships, field work in a minute. So the 2 years, pretty much the same, not the same, but it's spread out. So you still have to take the same core classes. Your sequence might be a little bit different. And you would do your internship in the summer between year 1 and year 2. And here's year 1, fall, spring semester, and then year 2, fall, spring semester. Anybody have any questions or comments? Or feel free to interrupt if you want to at any point here. Okay, like I said, this is all in the handouts that we're giving to you, and we're also recording this if you want to go back and listen to it. Okay. So getting back to the plan of study, if you want to go the thesis option or the scholarly paper option. The difference between the two is the thesis is more of a research-based project. You'll be taking thesis credits, which is 2924 and 2925, for a total of 6 credits. Typically would take those in your 4th semester, okay, if you're on the 2-year program, or you could maybe try to squeeze it into the 1 year. Don't really recommend a thesis for people in the 1 year, only because it's not that it's hard, it's just that it may take longer, especially if you're doing data collection, data analysis. That can take some time. But you'll need to work with your advisor and come up with a committee. You'll need to come up with a project. You'll need to defend the thesis. And we also use what we call the electronic thesis and dissertation format, or ETD process. That's a specific method or a specific way you have to format your thesis so that when it's uploaded into the library system, there's consistency. And that's basically a template that you'll have plenty of opportunities to get to know, and probably know more than you'll ever want to. Okay. Scholarly paper has a lot more flexibility. Okay, you can do a lot. There's a lot of different forms to it. The Scully paper could be anything from maybe a data analysis, a case study, a prototype of a device. But we want you to work with your advisor to come up with a project sooner than later, and then also identify a committee to provide oversight to it, and that also needs to be defended when you're done. This is what the plan of study looks like. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but just wanted to show you there is a specific form. I believe, Amy, it is downloadable, right? Or Amy's over there. But yeah, the form is downloadable. There are Word versions out there, PDF versions. Now, the plan of study it's not necessarily carved in stone. If there's a change, or maybe there's a different class after you've been here for a while, you say, well, maybe I want to take this elective versus that elective. There's certainly flexibility, but you need to meet with your advisor, make the changes, and then both sign it and make sure that it's on file. It's really important to keep this up to date because when you're in your last semester and you're getting ready to graduate, there's a lot of processes and procedures that you have to go through. So if your plan of study is outdated and it's the 11th hour, you got to chase down your advisor, you got to chase down people for signatures. So really recommend that you keep it as current as possible and perhaps even revisit it at the beginning of each semester or different times. The student handbook, so there's really, I learned this yesterday myself. I think if you look at it, there's 3 student handbooks. There's the overall university handbook, which is kind of like the overarching requirements. Doesn't go into a lot of detail. There's the school, and Health and Rehab Science has a graduate student handbook that gets into a little more detail specific to the school that you're in, and then we have our department procedures. So think of it as like federal law, state law, and local law. And it all should work together. So that's going to go over things like your what the faculty and staff responsibilities are, academic policies, what the advisement process is and mentoring. All of you should have read that, and before you leave today, we need you to sign a document saying that you read the handbook and that you are in agreement with the terms and conditions. That's sort of like your contract with the university. So it's good for us. We know what we need to do, and you know what you need to do, with the goal again being that you graduate successfully and move on. So funding information, we'll cover that a little bit here. And then student organizations, I'm going to let Benny go over that stuff. So clinical education is a big part of this program. Especially many of you have already identified that clinical practice is an area that you want to be in. The Center for Assistive Technology down in Forbes Tower is sort of going to be your first line of training and access to real people with real disabilities needing real solutions. In order to work in a clinic, those of you who have worked in clinics, there's obviously a lot of regulatory things associated with that, just to make sure that we don't make our patients sicker, we don't do harm to them. So you're going to have to fill out some modules, make sure that you have the right immunizations, TB tests, but again, I'm going to let Amy cover that when she goes over what the modules are that you're going to need to complete before you can go into the clinic. All right, financial aid, I just want to mention that there are financial aid resources here. If you haven't already done so, if you qualify for financial aid, just work with the financial aid office. We don't necessarily get too much involved in that unless it's related to a graduate research stipend or pre-doc fellowship that you might be getting from one of our sponsored projects. If you have a disability, the Disability Resource Center is actually very good here. It's probably the best. They will make sure or work with you to make sure that all the necessary reasonable accommodations are provided to you. They have a new online system that just started this fall. I haven't experienced it, but I've looked at it. Having a disability myself, a lot of us have worked with the university to make sure that these resources are well coordinated and well managed, and that you're in a department that really supports people with disabilities becoming professionals in the field of assistive technology. That's one of our core areas. And then we have, as I say, graduate student handbook from the university can be downloaded. Covered that, yes. And then employment. So the thing about employment, some of you may be getting some funding through the university as a graduate research assistant, a pre-doctoral fellow, or you might be on some like Fulbright scholar or funding from other sources. The rule at the University of Pittsburgh is that if you're getting funding from the University of Pittsburgh to attend, you're not allowed to work anywhere else at the university while you're here. Now, if you want to go outside of the university and do something, you're welcome to do that. You know, if you want to be an Uber driver, we can't stop you from doing it. But you cannot work at the university while you're getting funding. So, anything else anybody want to add about that? All right. So clinical internships. I'm going to let Rich. Sure.
Thanks, Mark. And Allie, if I miss something, please correct me as well. I am recently taking over the internship placements as of like a couple of days ago. So this is all very new to me as well. But again, everyone who is around the table, we all have had extensive networking. And so we bring a breadth of connections. And so there are approved sites. So for your internship, it is 240 contact hours, which is 6 credits. Predominantly, this should be taken in the summer term based on that plan of study that Mark kind of outlined before. Ideally, internship takes place in the summer term. Maybe necessary to split the credits over different semesters depending on how your funding is as well. So those are things that we can definitely talk about. But the biggest thing here that I think we want to highlight is plan early. Again, we do have approved number of sites that you can go to, which makes it a very easy streamline. But if there's a site that we maybe not have a contract with, it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get a contract signed for a new organization. So we definitely want you to meet with us earlier, the better. Obviously, meet with your advisor, discuss what maybe your career paths and your interests are. So just hearing, just for those few seconds that you introduce yourself, my mind's already thinking where I could place you. And I also am also thinking long-term for employment for you as well. As Mark said, if you're looking for the clinical rehab engineering positions, there are a vast more that are out there within the VA and also in the private sector. We actually just placed 2 of our students in the VA system actually creating rehab engineer positions. I was just made aware yesterday that there's actually going to be a new position for a rehab engineer in the next 6 to 9 months as well. So those are things that come out, very quickly. So I would definitely say there are many steps in this process. I don't want to go through the whole entire slide, but I think the biggest overall here is plan early, especially for the individuals who are doing the 1-year masters. It goes by very quickly. I'm not saying you're going to forget about the internship, but that is a requirement. So we want to plan ahead of time. And also for the ones who are doing the 2-year masters, you have a little bit more time and you can kind of go through the coursework to see maybe what areas that you really want to specialize in as well. So recent internship sites, we kind of just broke this down into more of the clinical industry and community outreach. And again, these are predominantly here in the Pittsburgh area. Mark and I and a lot of the other faculty and staff here, like we said, we have a network, outside the Pittsburgh community. Obviously that brings in other issues with travel and things like that. So those are things that we can definitely talk about. But just speaking from the Pittsburgh area, from a clinical sense, we have the VA Pittsburgh Healthcare System, the UPMC Center for Assistive Technology, the Western Pennsylvania School for the Blind, and the Children's Institute. These are all approved contracts, which makes it a little easier to do these for you. With industry, New Motion, Stealth Products, we're going to be also including most of our supplier network that are in the CAD as well. And then we also have our community outreach partners, whether it's Disability Resource Center, Achieva, Transitional Paths to Independent Living as well. So these are just a few of them. When I get to know you guys, I will send you a spreadsheet that I'm working with Allie and Dee Dee right now to see what are all of our approved active sites right now. So again, for your internship, don't want to get too into nuts and bolts, but there will be requirements. It's not that you just go there for 240 hours. There will be obviously some mandatory things for you to do, whether it's looking at weekly reflection logs, And the biggest thing is must take in location and transportation. So some of you who are local here to Pittsburgh, it may be a little easier. If you're not familiar with Pittsburgh and may not have access to travel, those are things you want to take into account sooner than later, obviously. And again, students really need to drive the process. You know, I think we're outlets here for you and as a resource, but it really, you know, this is for you guys as well. We're here to help you as much as we can, but it really has to, you drive it, but I will be there every step of the way to help you guys through this as well.
So the important thing to give yourself time here is matching you with the right type of internship. You know, that's why we kind of asked you up front here, what are your career goals or what do you see yourself doing? We're somewhat serious, and you don't have to make that decision today, but at some point, once you get acclimated to the curriculum and you start taking classes and you know where your strengths and weaknesses are, we want to try to get you into a site that will meet your needs, meet their needs, and possibly lead to employment after you're done. The good thing is two students, well, three now that I know of that have just graduated, all had 4 job offers. That was industry, of course. We're running a deficit right now of about 120 assistive technology professionals a year nationwide. So industry, the supply side of the industry, manufacturing side of the industry, the clinical side of the industry is looking to us and other universities like, hey, we need people, there's a shortage. So keep that in mind. You're likely going to find a job when you graduate.
That's all I have. Any questions about that? All right. I think I'm going to turn this over to Vinny next. And Bethany, maybe?
Okay, so like I said before, my name is Vince, and I'm the current president of the Rehab Science Technology Graduate Student Organization. Also, Beth is the business manager. Joseph Lott, he's also another PhD student here. He's the vice president, and then Haley Coolidge, also another PhD student here. She's a business administrator. So we typically have meetings once a month. Try to have them on a Friday. Usually the last Friday of the month. We might be switching up this semester just depending on everybody's schedules. We'll try to figure that out though. Let's see. All right, so some of the things that we do is through RST GSO, we act as a liaison between students and faculty / staff. So if you do not feel comfortable kind of going to your faculty and staff, which you should, don't get me wrong, feel free to come to the students and just kind of voice your opinion, talk, that a little bit if you need to. We know we all need that every once in a while. We have a mentorship program, so all of you should have been paired up with a mentor when you guys first applied for, got accepted the program, and then came here. And so that's something we just recently started. Hopefully that went well with everyone and is helpful, hopefully. We also host social networking events. So the O&P group on the other side of the wall here, they also have a student group that they work with. And we try to do a lot of social events with them, like tailgates for the pit football games, or maybe like a cookout every now and then when the finals week's coming up or something. And then we also host the annual Student Appreciation Night. So that's something we just started last year. Something to mention too, I guess we just kind of started this group last year, so we're kind of learning as we go right now. But this is something that we started last year, the annual Student Appreciation Night. So what we did is we invited everybody within the field of technology or any kind of interest or profession in disability to one event here at Bakery Square. And we just hosted a social event basically. Gave students a chance to network with individuals within the community involved in AT, and just got everybody to really together to talk and mingle amongst each other. Roughly 95 people or so showed up, and so that was between students, faculty, and staff, and then also professionals within the field. So it was a great opportunity to network, interact with some of the professionals in the community, and hopefully a few jobs or internships came out of that. It's always a good place to bring that up if you want to, though. It's very, very relaxed, kind of business, semi-business professional, and you guys should be able to see that coming up next year. It's usually, when we have it last year, March?
It was
April. So the end of the spring semester. So right when you guys are getting ready to graduate or second years, you guys are ready to have each year on top of that. So we also sponsor the annual Commitment to Community Service Awards. So that's something new this year that we're going to try out. So through the organization, you have to keep track of your service hours. And so basically, if you volunteer in the community, do any kind of community service, just let us know what kind of outreach you've done, and we'll submit that through the organization. That's just one of the criteria for the actual award itself. We're trying to kind of come up with all the exact criteria right now, but that should be presented in the holiday season. So we usually have some sort of dinner / event in the holiday season right at the end of the fall semester. I think we're having that again this year where a couple other awards will be presented. And so we'll try to lump this right in with that. We're trying to determine the monetary amount that would be associated with that. Potentially, we're thinking roughly 200 or so. So just give you a little bit if you wanted to attend a conference or something. That might be a good opportunity to just kind of get involved in the community and maybe receive a little bit off of that. So second one, you have volunteer in the community. That's also very important. I think Dan's going to go over that at noon during the second orientation where everybody's going to be together. You guys with the OMP students. So just different opportunities to volunteer with some of the sporting events or a couple other, like the wheelchair wash we do at UPMC. That's something you can be involved in. Just a few other events. And then we also do some fundraising. And so we get allotted a certain amount throughout the school just for being a student organization, but on top of that, we like to do some fundraising on our own. And so one thing that we're trying to do right now is get fundraising from the vending machines. So within the kitchen area, there's 2 vending machines right now, and we're trying to, I guess, receive a certain profit off of that to try to just have some kind of steady flow of income in for the organization. And then last year we tried out a RST clothing fundraiser as well, and that actually went very well. A lot of the other departments have their own kind of clothing, and all we really find that we can get is SHRS clothing, so the school clothing. We didn't really have anything department specific. So we tried that out this past year, and it worked out fairly well. We made a couple $100 off it and kept the prices low for everybody involved. And I think everything turned out real nice. I think Mark's actually has one of the polos on that we had. So I'll just give you a quick example of what those look like. So just going to go through a couple other things throughout the community if you haven't found any yet. So housing, hopefully you guys have found housing already. But here's a link to the off-campus housing through PIT if you haven't already. And then also a couple quick mentions. Feel free to talk with any of the current students if you're looking for housing for the right neighborhood to stay in. Like we have listed a few here: Lawrenceville, Shadyside, Squirreville, Regent Square, all close neighborhoods to Bakery Square and Oakland. So that's where Forbes Tower is. And then they'll be able to kind of give you some direction on that. So this is just a quick overview of Pittsburgh neighborhoods. So the best way to think about it is the 3 rivers come together. So where they come together, that's your main downtown area. Your North Shore, that's where the sport fields are, PNC Park and Heinz Field. And then once you get up through the Hills District, come up through downtown Oakland, that's where main campus is. So that's where you're going to be going to Forbes Tower at. A lot of your classes that they mentioned before. And then if you come straight out, which this is going to be 5th Ave here, then you're going to get into Shadyside, and then this is where Bakery Square is actually. So it's right in the corner here, East Liberty and Shadyside area. And so this is just to give you a good visual of all the Pittsburgh neighborhoods that are out there. Not sure where you guys are living right now, but just give you an idea of where everything's at. So parking, so I'm not sure how many of you guys commute by driving, walking, biking, etc., but there's multiple ways to get to Bakery Square and Forbes Tower. Parking at Bakery Square, obviously the parking garage is probably the first option. You get 3 free hours when you park there. Anything beyond that you have to pay, or you can just get a lease at the actual garage itself. I'm not sure how much those run now.
I think it's like $90.
90 a month, so if you can afford 90 a month, you could try that out. Then down here, we just put in this little bit. A lot of it's just kind of find that out the longer you stay here. But Beechwood Boulevard, I'll put that real quick. So let's see where we're at right here. So if you go on the other side of 5th Avenue, which, I don't know, we don't have
No, we don't have like
a good road map here.
Jeez.
It's a long walk.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, I mean, it's a 10-minute walk and it's free parking all day long. So feel free to feel free to park over there if you'd like to and walk over. You get a nice little exercise in, depending on if you're used to winter weather or not as well. I guess that becomes a factor. But winters can get kind of harsh, kind of slushy, so if you don't have a pair of boots, it'd be a good investment if you're going to be here for a while. So, and then parking in Oakland. So if you're in Oakland itself, you kind of go down Fifth Avenue. It's all basically one straight shot, Fifth Avenue down here. It's from Oakland to Bakery Square out here. So you can either park on the street, which you can use parking authority stations there on every sidewalk to pay for your parking, which they also have an app as well. I find it extremely helpful just because I don't have to go to the parking meter to do everything there. Just get on my card, put the code in, and I'm good to go. Another place to park is Soldiers and Sailors. I know some people park there just they get a parking pass. I know it's a little bit cheaper than the actual parking pass in Forbes Tower and at Bakery Square, I think. So that's where I know some students like to get their parking passes, and it's fairly close to Forbes Tower. So Forbes Tower itself, you could park there for a fee. I think it's like $6 for the first couple hours. If you're there pretty much all day, yeah, all day you're looking at like $25. So if you're there a couple times a week, you might as well just get a parking pass. And then you can also park on Myron Avenue. There's a parking garage across from Forbes Tower as well. That's ran by the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. You could also park in there for a fee.
Can I just say something about these parking leases that you're talking about? If you do want to do that, there is a link on the PIP website for parking, and you actually have to apply. You have to put your name on a waiting list, and it's a several-month waiting list, but you can at least choose a parking garage that's close to you, and when your name comes up, they'll offer you the pass,
Which might be after you graduate.
which could be like
Sure.
Is there free parking after a certain time? Some blocks of the evening?
I don't believe so in Oakland. In some parts of the city, you will find that there's free parking after 6 p.m. I know in certain areas, the Shady Side and a couple other areas, you can park free after 6 a.m. after 6 p.m. and on Sundays. But again, in Oakland, you're going to be paying only. So and they will ticket you. You don't know when they're going to show up. Seem to show up whenever that one time you don't pay, then you get a $60 parking ticket.
They show up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it's all satellite and
Especially
Traffic.
at this time of year with all the new students coming in and everybody's kind of flowing into Oakland and not really knowing the rules yet, they're constantly patrolling. So keep that in mind. So on that same note, other types of transportation. So you can use the Transportation Safe Rider link here, and that'll kind of give you a little bit of info through PIT itself. There's a Bakery Square shuttle that comes here. I'm not
every
familiar
half
how
hour.
often that comes.
I think it's every half hour.
Yeah, so that might be an idea for you. Bus transportation is probably the most popular among students just because it's free with your PIT ID, and you can take the PIT transport or public transportation anywhere in the city that you'd like to. Also, the inclines down in Mount Washington, you can take those up if you want to go there at any time as well. It's all free, and I think you get discounted fees in the museums, or maybe even free access to the museums with your PIT ID too. But they might go over that later. But other than that, then there's also a bike route that goes back and forth if you guys like to bicycle. And then the walk from Bakery Square to Forbes Tower, depending on your speed, could be half hour, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, depending on weather, speed, etc. So right now, I mean, what I used to do, just from a student perspective, I used to bike ride a lot, but if I had to drive, I'd park on Beechwood and then take the bus into Oakland. Take the bus back out to drive home just because it's free both ways. And so that's just a little hint from a student's perspective.
And I'll tell you, as someone who doesn't drive, the city bus system is phenomenal.
There are a few apps as well
Yeah.
that you can download that'll give you up-to-date information on where the buses are at and how long you have to wait for.
Like right on the corner here of Penn Avenue and East Liberty Boulevard, and just there's a bus every 5 to 10 minutes that's going to take you to Oakland. Or you can walk down to Fifth Avenue less frequently, but it's a straight shot, and it's about a 20-minute bus ride
And if you want more information on that, just feel free to ask any of the students. Most faculty and staff will probably be able to give you the right numbers to ride. Like that's 71D up there. You could have 71C, 75 down here. Just ask, and we'll give you the information. There's a few different ways you can get there.
And there's a transportation link on the PIT app. You should talk to them about that.
Yeah.
They're up to date.
Sounds good.
And all the buses have GPS now, so the apps are actually accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we lobbied for many years.
Every now
Buses
and-
do, but the buses do also get very crowded. Well, the good thing about picking up the bus here at Bakery Square to Oakland, it's empty here, but as it's moving towards Oakland, it's okay, you have a seat, everybody else has to stand.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with
And they're
bus
all-
etiquette
yeah.
as well, it's always good to just maybe ask someone that rides the bus a lot just to become familiar with how people ride. Obviously, if you're on first, kind of go to the back of the bus to just give people room in the front. If you stand for elderly or anybody who
Yeah,
needs a seat.
I can talk to anybody
It's-
about bus etiquette if you want.
It's just something to consider, keep in the back of the mind if you're going to ride. So other things to do, there's this cool site down here called coolpittsburgh.edu. It'll give you a list of a whole bunch of things you can go to. We have a huge cultural district here in Pittsburgh with a bunch of plays, musicals that you can go to downtown, a whole bunch of museums and galleries you can attend or go to and see. A lot of sports, a lot of outdoorsy things that you can go to. That kind of plays into some of the volunteering as well. So some of the organizations here in Pittsburgh with adaptive sports, you can kind of go out and get your own exercise in while kind of volunteering at the same time. Obviously, a lot of music. There's a whole bunch of music venues around within the city limits and outside the city limits. You can attend and go to a few of those as well. Another neat thing they do during the summer is movies in the park. So some of the parks, I think they're on this website too. Some of the local parks you can go to. So Shady or park is that down by
What's that?
Shanley?
Shenley
Shenley
Park.
Park.
Yeah, sorry. Shenley Park has a movie night every once in a while. They'll put up a huge screen. You can just go sit on it and watch it. It's pretty neat. But yeah, feel free to go to this and check it out. So the university libraries. So you have the main library right down in Oakland you can go to. Basically open to all students. They have a few set hours that you can attend, or you can go to the library and have like your private space if you need to. I think the hours extend a little bit during finals week or the couple weeks leading up to finals week if that's just your thing to go in the library and study or read whatever you need to do. And then there's also a couple other libraries you can go to. I'm not sure what must have taken them off. But there's a law school library if you are interested in taking any law school classes. I think there's a certificate in disability studies within the law program that you could explore. I know a couple students have gone through that over the last few years. And you have access to the law library if you're interested in that. And then there's this health sciences library system. So this is the online portal that you can go to. And it'll kind of give you access to everything that's available in the Hillman Library, as well as kind of provide you access to the PubMed search engine and a couple of the other ones like Medline and such. So when you guys are doing your research, you pretty much have free access to pretty much any article you ever want to look at. If you don't have access, they usually can request it from another library and then get you access to that if you need to. But most of all, I haven't really had an issue with finding an article that is in this system. You can usually have free access, look it up, and have full access to it, look through that. And then Rose Turner, I believe that's updated, is the research librarian that you can go to. That's your email there. And that's just to give you a little bit more information on if you need a little bit of guidance getting through the library system, the online library system. She'll be able to kind of, I think she does a online seminar as well.
Actually, I'm going to talk to them about that.
Oh, perfect. So Amy's going to talk to you a little bit more about a little bit more specifics here. Social media, I don't know if you saw coming back here, there's a couple like hashtags through Twitter and Facebook pages you can join and Snapchats, all kinds of stuff that you can join and just kind of keep up to date on what's going on in the school, the university, RST, certain programs within RST, and just kind of keep up to date, post some things, and be involved with the entire AT community nationwide as well, if you really want to get into that a little bit more. And then here's the app as well. So this is through University of Pittsburgh. It kind of gives you information on anything that you'd ever need throughout the university. You can log into your PIT portal from here if you need to as well. Up here. and you can access your schedule, do whatever you need to. But this is just like your basics here, events and calendar updates and such. So feel free to download that as well. Okay. And then if you have any other questions about anything, feel free to come to any of us. I feel like we're all pretty easy to approach, for the most part. But yeah, it's a small group here.
There's some scary people here.
For the most, yeah, I mean, just feel free to talk to anyone. As you can see, there's only 6 of you here, 7 of you, so it's a small group. We're all
Yeah, I would say for that, first, if you have questions, lean on your mentor. Your mentor's going to be another student. You're probably more comfortable talking with a peer. If that doesn't work, you can go to your advisor. If you don't like what your advisor has to say, then you move your way up the chain. Just know that if you're going to complain about us to the chair, you better have a legitimate complaint.
If you have a complaint about someone like that, it's probably best to go to your mentor, and they can be like, well, this professor's a little meanie anyway, so you just have to deal with it. Or either way, you should be able to pretty much figure everything out with your student mentor before you really go anywhere higher up. Honestly, I mean, if you do have a grievance, I would go higher up if you need to, but everybody's kind of open ears, so feel free to do that. And then after this as well, for the student group, I think Amy's going to come up and talk a little bit, but I think Joe's going to take some headshots over here just for a couple ID purposes and such, which Amy's going to get into. And then you have an opportunity, we'll collect all your guys' emails and everything to sign up for the student organization, which I hope everybody does.
Yeah.
Not saying you have to, but you should.
You should, because it doesn't cost anything and you can pretty much put as much or as little into it as you want. There's like a 1-hour meeting once a month, and if that's all you want to do just to get some information, you can. Obviously, we encourage you to come to our social events and to get involved and volunteer, but at least sign up so that we can get you communications about what's going on so you know and you have those options.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm gonna just jump in here real quick. I'm sorry I wasn't here before, I was doing the other one. I just want to go over some things with you guys really fast. So in the emails that I sent to you earlier before you came, I had given you some instructions of items that we need, modules, some certifications that you're going to have. The paper that I just gave you on top, that is your checklist. What I'm going to need you to do is get all of your documents together. Put them in order as they are on here. Put your name on this, and I'm going to collect the whole packet. Now, if you don't have all of your clearances back, it's okay. Just let me know that you've at least submitted for them, and as they come, I'll continue to take them, but these are required, okay? Also, they talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm going to pass this out to you. The RT manual that you were asked to review, these are the signature pages. There is one in your packet. We're going to need you to sign this and return this back to me along with your packet as well. And then lastly, the other thing that I have in here, so I realize at the top this says MSPO. Actually, Rich and I are working on one for the RehabilitationTechnology program, where we are going to do these lunch and learns. However, there are 2 items on this calendar that I strongly suggest you guys all attend. The first one is actually in September. Vince was just telling you about the library resources with Rose Turner. She's actually coming here on Friday the 14th at noon. She is going to give an overview on all of the library resources and what you have available to you. She's also going to bring somebody from the library about data searching too. So this is something that would probably be very good for you for any of your upcoming research that you're going to need. So I suggest you attend that. One of the requirements that I gave you on here was a CPR certification. If you have not got that yet, it is okay. In October, on the 18th, we actually have the University of Pittsburgh coming to do CPR certification. There will actually be a link that is sent out that you can sign up. Again, I strongly suggest that you sign up for that if you have not already done so. And lastly, I have some memos that I need to give out. Jenna, you don't need one though because I gave it to you yesterday. Have you all gotten your IDs yet, the PIT IDs? Okay, good. You're going to need those. And you're also going to need this memo with your name on it. And go downstairs to the main lobby. You want to see Tim Dougherty. He's at the main desk. He's actually going to be the one to give you the access into the building. He'll add that right onto your PIT card so you can just swipe and get into the facilities, okay? Jeff? Get that together, please. Forgive me. Michael? Satria? Am I seeing?
She's not
She's
here.
not here? Okay. Gershma? Is that you? No, that's not you. That's not you. Actually, who did I not give one to? You guys. All right, I'll need you to stop by my office and I'll print them off for you. But you will need these to get the access into the building. Again, if you have any problems with putting together your packet, come and see me or talk to Vince or Bethany. They can help you. They've all had to do these as well. And
We should put a tick, or we should put
yeah,
a
put
tick.
them all in order, and if you've got a problem obtaining any of these, or if you haven't received them back yet, because sometimes the FBI criminal background check, that takes a little bit, just let me know that it's been submitted, make notes on it so that I know. That way, I just don't think that you've not included it in the packet, but we can always help if you're having some difficulty with it. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Just to add a little bit
Oh,
to
did I take all of your stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
To the training as well, so for the clinic at UPMC, there's some additional modules and paperwork that needs to take place. Just be aware that that's separate from this,
And when
and
it's
when it's time, yeah, you guys are gonna go through that, but just,
now, the pictures that Joe's gonna take of you guys, that's gonna be for an ID that you're going to use for when you are out in the field, when you do go to the Center for Assistive Technology or you're out on your internship. So he's just gonna get those out of the way now, so we have them, and when the time comes, we'll have IDs for you, okay?
then I just have a couple quick comments that I kind of left out of the presentation. First thing, I think they're gonna mention it at noon, but the scholarships that are available to students, that should be online in the student handbook and everything, so make sure you guys read through those. I'm also the treasurer for the student advisory board for the school, and so we do a travel scholarship, a travel grant that you guys can apply to. So if you want to go to a conference or present or something, you can apply for that. Just get a little bit of this financial assistance for that. So Bethany is the vice president of that organization as well. So we're kind of in charge of those travel grants, and so we're kind of aware of the conferences everybody can go to. And it's pretty simple, so it's free money that's there, so you might as well apply for it. The other thing I want to mention is kitchen space. Again, I don't know if they're going to mention this at noon or not. It's completely open to everybody, so feel free to store stuff in the fridge, use a microwave, toaster, everything. Just make sure you keep it clean, I guess. Nobody
Clean up
else
after
really cleans
yourself.
it. Yeah,
Treat it like it's your own kitchen, hopefully.
pretty much.
And no electric frying pans either. They'll be cooking burgers out there.
I think someone did that a couple years ago. Yeah, and got in trouble. So, yeah. There's stuff out there you can use though, so feel free to use it. There's a Keurig out there as well, so feel free to bring K-cups in and anything you need. There's like I said, there's keep track and just clean up after yourselves. There's coffee cups and plates and stuff you can use as well. Yeah, so just wanted to add those couple things. Thank you.
So, anybody have any questions, comments, complaints? Okay. So we're done. I'll just say that, again, welcome. All of us here, staff, faculty, existing current grad students, we're very passionate about this field of assistive technology. And we're very passionate about making sure that it sustains long term. So we're here to support you. We want you to get the best out of it and move on to do great things. So, welcome. I think we're going to do a tour now. Is that correct?
I don't know where Colonel Dan went.
Start on the tour as well.
We can do
the pictures.
Yeah, let's take the pictures, and then if Dan's not back, we can start touring the labs in this area.
And I just wanted to point your attention behind Mark on this one last slide. These are just some of the points of contact that obviously you do reach to many of these people, but again, these are just some of our email addresses that I'm sure you'll get plenty of emails from us throughout your course of your stay here. But again, Amy Donovan, Mark, myself, John Proman, who is our department chair, you'll meet at 12 o'clock. And then Tyler Fleck is one of our department administrators, and then Colonel Fisher as well. So these are just some of the main points that you'll be looking for over the next year or 2 years. So I think that's it. I think we'll go with Joe. Will take everybody to some headshots.